Hey guys, welcome to this series of videos about strategic leadership. And in this video, I'm going to talk about superior performance. All right, so basically, we're going to talk about what is the job of the manager, what is the job of the leader. Obviously, what you want to achieve is always what we call shareholder value. In other words, you might be a very nice guy, but at the end of the day, or a very nice girl, or a nice person in general, but at the end of the day, if you're not generating value for your stakeholders, you're not going to be able to maintain your job for very long. Um, Managers, our job is to generate value for our investors, for our shareholders, for our stockholders, and so on. So if we're not doing that, then we're not doing a very good job, right? So that does not mean obviously that to generate this value you need to be a bad person, not at all. Okay, but our goal or our job is to generate this value. So let's start by defining shareholder value. What is shareholder value? Shareholder value is the value delivered to the equity owners of a corporation due to management's ability to increase to a couple of things. For example, I might be able to increase my shareholder value by increasing my sales, or I might be able to increase my shareholder value by increasing my earnings, or by having more free cash flow. Now, all of this, okay, these three big increases in the company will lead also to an increase in two things, to an increase either in dividends, and dividends is what shares pay a part of the profits that a company might decide to pay to their shareholders at the end of the year. And so we might give value back to our shareholders through dividends, or we might give them value through capital gain. Many companies don't pay dividend, but for example, if last year their share was worth $100 and this year it's worth $120, that means they had a capital gain, in this case of $20 or 20%. So this is the two ways that we deliver shareholder value towards through corporations. So our job as managers is to come up with efficient strategies. Now, those efficient strategies can lead to two things. It might lead to an increase of profitability, which we measure through the return on invested capital formula. And here we're talking, for example, last year we sold $100,000 and we got a profit of $20,000. So that means that we had a profit of 20%. This year, maybe we still sold $100,000, but we had a profit of $25,000, which means that our percentage of profit increased. All right. Another way, so one thing is to increase profitability. Another way is to actually have profit growth, which means that maybe our profitability is the same, but we increased the sales and we were able overall to achieve more profit. So this is the two ways, and both of these will lead obviously to shareholder value. So by doing all this is the job that a manager needs, specifically a manager that has strategic power or makes strategic decisions in the. So, one of the ways to do this typically is that most managers try to achieve what we call a superior performance. Now, superior performance, before we get into what superior performance is, there's just a couple of definitions I want to say here. And the first one is the definition of risk capital. Now, risk capital is the money or equity capital for which there is no guarantee that stockholders will ever recoup their investment or that they will earn a decent return. In other words, this is the money that your shareholders invested on the business, and there's no guarantee that this money will actually, that the money, when you invest in a business, there's no guarantee that you're going to recover your money or that you're going to be able to get a decent return from that investment. So there is a risk associated with this kind of investments, obviously. So our role as managers, what we're basically doing is we are managing the money that was invested in the company. All right, that's our job, and therefore there's responsibility towards that, and our investors want to make sure that not only they recuperate their investment, but they get a good return for it. Okay, going a little bit more into the definition of profitability. So profitability is the return that a company makes on the capital invested in the enterprise. In other words, so it's the return, the money that I get back for the money that was invested in the enterprise, which means for the money that was invested in the company, right? So profitability normally is expressed as a percentage, and we typically use calculations like return on invested capital, but there's many different calculations. We can do that later on. I'll try to make a video specifically about that. So Like I said, one of the things that we use is return on invested capital. And basically what this calculation creates or allows me to do is allows me to analyze the result of how effectively the capital is used to satisfy customer needs. How well am I using that capital? Typically, if we just get a return on investment for 1 year, that's not a lot of information. But when you have a return on investment for industry and for several years on the company, this allows you to compare and allows you to know if you're getting better or if, in other words, you're getting worse. It also allows you to know, for example, if how are you doing comparing to your competition? Do you have more profitability than the average of the industry, or do you have higher? And this can be a really good information to have to know, okay, why are we having these results? Profit growth, on the other hand, is the increase in the net profit over time. And this is obviously achieved by selling more products in rapid expanding markets, for example, by gaining market share from rivals, in other words, by getting more customers than our rivals are getting, or by getting customers from our rivals to come to us. Also from selling more to existing customers, or from expanding overseas or diversifying into new businesses. We will actually talk about this in a later series of videos, and I find it interesting because, remember, this is the 4 big options that you have as a company to expand, but that does not mean you cannot mix and match them. A lot of times it is possible to have 2 of them work at the same time. Now, so our goal, like I've been saying, is to boost profitability and profit growth. And for that, managers need to do a couple of things. Number one, they need to make sure that they are using strategies that gives the company the competitive advantage they need over rivals. What do I mean with that? It means that managers need to make sure that your company or the company they work for is doing something better than the competition, that is doing something different, something that distinguishes them from the sea of other competitors that we have. But also they need to be able at the same time to deliver high profitability and sustainable profit growth. So from one side, you have to have costs, and the more costs you incur, theoretically, the better the product you are delivering to your customers. But at the same time, you need to make sure that you get a high enough profitability that makes your shareholders value. So from one side you have the customers, from one side you have the shareholders, and both their needs are a little bit the opposite of each other. So it is your goal in the middle as a manager to make sure to mediate this and see, okay, what is the level of service I need to deliver? What is the level of profitability I must deliver? So to summarize, what we see here is that indeed, in order to increase the value for the shareholders, there's 2 main things you have to work on: increasing profitability of the company and increasing profit growth. Those are the 2 main ways that will allow shareholders to receive higher value from the company. And therefore, as a manager, this is the 2 things that you constantly going to be measured on to see if you're doing a good job or not. Thank you very much for watching the video. And if you have any questions or you disagree with something that I said, please leave a comment on the comment section below.